Dex has 4 tabs open: a spreadsheet, a calendar, a half-written email, and a document he keeps meaning to finish. 4 tabs, that's a normal Tuesday. But there's a 5th one now, way over on the right, and Dex opened it 3 days ago, and he hasn't closed it since. Do you know the kind of tab I mean? Not the kind you forget about, the kind you keep glancing at. The company added a new tool last week, the way companies do, with a cheerful email and an exclamation point. Everyone clicked it once. Most of them closed it. Dex didn't. If you've ever opened something at work and felt your stomach drop for a reason you couldn't quite name, you already know Dex a little. Dex is the index finger. Blue capsule head, one finger perpetually half-raised, like he's always a quarter second away from saying actually. And usually he is. Dex is the smartest one in the room, and not in an annoying way, in a useful way. He's the one who catches the flaw in the plan. He's the one who remembers the thing everyone else forgot. For years, his whole job, his whole identity, has been knowing the answer before anyone asks the question. So why is the new tab so quiet? Why does a tool that's supposed to help him feel like a problem he can't solve? Maybe because, for the first time, it knows things too. Let's reframe this, because the official story and the real story are not the same story. The official story is the one in the cheerful email. This will free you up, this will take the boring parts off your plate. This lets you focus on what really matters. Sounds great, right? Who wouldn't want that? Here's the reframe. The promise was AI will free up your time. The reality in most offices turned out to be slightly different. AI didn't free up the time. AI just made it possible to hand you twice the work in the same 8 hours. Nobody got freed. The bar just moved. And the strange part is, nobody announced that the bar moved. It just quietly did, and everyone pretended the old bar was still there. So Dex isn't slower than he used to be. He's actually faster. He just doesn't feel faster because the second the work got easier, the amount of it doubled, and the praise for finishing it disappeared. When did twice as much become the baseline? When did anybody agree to that? Now let's go deeper, because Dex's specific kind of fear has a name and a reason. Of all the people in an office, knowledge workers are the ones who feel the most threatened by all of this. The people who got hired for their hands feel it less, oddly, but the people who got hired for their thinking, for the exact skill the new tab is suddenly very good at, those people get very quiet. Have you noticed who's gone quiet lately? Here's why it cuts so deep. It's a thing called competence identity. Somewhere along the way, Dex did what most capable people do. He built his sense of self-worth out of the one thing he was best at: being the smart one, being right, being the person you turn to when the plan has a hole in it. That wasn't just his job. That was his answer to the quiet question every person carries around: what am I for? And now the tab can do a version of it faster, at 3 in the morning, without needing a coffee or a thank you or a weekend. So what happens to the part of you that was built entirely out of being the smart one, on the day the smart part stops being yours alone? The tricky thing about competence identity is how invisible it is until something threatens it. Dex didn't wake up one day and decide that being the smartest person in the room was his whole personality. It happened the way most identity does, gradually, through reinforcement. He gave the right answer, the room nodded, someone said, "Good catch, Dex." That felt like something. So he did it again. The room nodded again. Over years, the loop closed. Being useful in this particular way was the same as being worth something. The two things fused without anyone noticing, because it looked like confidence, and confidence looks like a good thing. Until the tool arrives, and the loop breaks, and suddenly the answer Dex would have given in the meeting is already on the screen before the meeting starts. And Dex is left standing in front of a closed loop with no way to plug back in. He doesn't say any of this out loud. What would he say? "I'm scared that the software is better at being me than I am." That sentence doesn't have a safe place to land. Now here's something Dex would never admit, and it's important. He's not just scared of the AI, he's also a little bit excited by it. He's seen what it can do, and part of his sharp, curious brain lit up. Both feelings are real. They live in him at the same time, which is exactly why he can't make sense of it. You're allowed to be amazed by something and terrified of it in the same breath. Most people are right now, and most people think they're the only one. So Dex does what he's always done with a feeling he can't solve. He overthinks it. 47 tabs now. Articles about the future of work. Forums full of strangers asking the same thing he can't say out loud. Because overthinking for Dex was never a bug. In an uncertain world, running every scenario in advance felt like the safest thing a smart person could do. If you can predict the danger, you can dodge it. That's the theory. That's why his finger is always half raised. He's bracing. The 47 tabs have not produced an answer. They have produced more questions, which have opened more tabs, which are also still open. Dex's browser history from the last 3 days looks like a person trying to think his way out of a feeling, which has never worked for anyone, which Dex knows doesn't work, which he keeps doing anyway. Here is what it actually looks like, day to day, when a capable person is quietly managing an identity crisis they can't name. Dex has read every article about AI and the future of work. He can tell you in precise detail which workflows the tool handles well and which it fumbles, not because he evaluated them objectively, but because he has been looking very carefully for the fumbles. Not out of malice, out of relief. Every limitation the tool has is a corner of the map where he can still navigate. Every mistake it makes is evidence that the chair is still worth something. The private relief he feels when it gets something wrong is not something he would want to explain to anyone. He doesn't examine it too closely himself. But here's where I want to slow down, because everything I've said so far is the surface, and the thing underneath is much smaller and much quieter, and Dex has not said it to a single person. Dex's fear was never really about the AI. Think about the meeting, the weekly one where the plan gets laid out, and there's always that moment, that little gap, where someone's missed something and Dex leans in, finger up, and says, "Actually, if you think about it," and the room turns. And for 4 seconds, he matters more than anyone else at that table. That moment is not about the work. That moment is the whole reason he can stand the rest of it. Dex's real fear is the meeting where nobody needs that anymore, where the hole in the plan was already caught by the tab before the meeting even started, where his finger goes up and there's nothing left to say, because the answer is already on the screen. He's not afraid of being wrong. He's afraid of being unnecessary. He's afraid of the silence where his moment used to be. That's the tab he can't close. It was never a browser tab. It was the question. Now look up for a second from Dex. Look around the open plan office. Really look, because here's the part that should make the whole thing feel less lonely and somehow doesn't. That same week, half the people in that office opened the same tab, felt the same drop, ran the same 47 tabs at midnight, asked themselves the same unspeakable question, and then walked into work the next morning and said, "Good, yeah, exciting times," and meant none of it. If you have ever felt a private, slightly complicated relief when a new tool made a visible mistake, if you have noticed yourself rooting quietly for it to miss something, you already understand the feeling. It's not a character flaw. It's a person trying to stay relevant by the only available method, being the thing the system isn't, carrying what it can't carry, noticing what it skips. The problem is that strategy has a ceiling, and it isn't very high. How many people around you right now are quietly managing a tab they open? How many of them, like Dex, have decided that the one thing scarier than the question is letting anyone hear them ask? It's a whole room full of people having the same private crisis, each one certain they're the only one. Nobody says it out loud, so everybody carries it alone, in a room full of people carrying the exact same thing. There's a difference here that nobody draws clearly enough, and it matters. Being replaced and being repositioned are not the same thing. Replaced means the chair is empty. Repositioned means the chair is still yours, but the job in it changed shape while you were sitting down. Repositioned is harder than replaced in one specific way. It asks you to grieve something that isn't fully gone. The old version of your job is still there, just smaller. The thing you were best at is still needed, just less urgently. There's no clean ending to mourn, no announcement, no farewell. The identity you built just quietly becomes less load-bearing while you're still standing on it, and you have to rebuild under your own feet without stopping, without anyone acknowledging that the floor moved. Dex has been treating replaced and repositioned as the same word. Almost everybody does, but the office isn't deleting the smart one. It's asking the smart one to be smart about something new. That's terrifying in a different, smaller way. And smaller is survivable. So what does Dex do? Nothing dramatic. There's no resignation letter, no big speech. It's just the next meeting. The plan goes up on the screen, and there's a gap, a little hole, the kind he'd have lived for a year ago. And his hand goes up. Old habit, the finger half raised like always. But the question that comes out isn't the one he's been holding. It isn't actually, if you think about it. It's smaller than that. He looks at the new tab glowing on the shared screen and he asks the room, "So, how are we all actually using this thing?" And here's the quiet, real thing. That's not the question he's been afraid of. It's not, "Am I still necessary?" He still can't ask that one out loud. But it's adjacent to it. It's the first honest thing he's said about the tab in 3 days. And the second it's out of his mouth, 2 other people lean in, a little too fast, like they'd been waiting for anyone to go first. He didn't close the tab. It's still open, 5th from the left, glowing away. But for the first time in 3 days, Dex isn't staring at it alone. His hand is up, not to prove he's the smartest one in the room, just to ask a real question out loud with witnesses. It's not an answer. The tab is still open. The fear is still there, but a raised hand that asks instead of proves. For Dex, that's not a small thing. That's the new tab, the real one, finally starting to open.